Champion's Mindset, the podcast that gives your inner game a serious upgrade. Join internationally renowned mindset and performance expert, Aussie Kathryn ORFORD.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Champions Mindset podcast. I am so excited and I'm so glad you're here with us. So, I had a podcast during the pandemic called The Inner Game of Winning, and I just realized it was time to start this all over again. So, today we're going to be talking to a former professional basketball player, but the Champions Mindset is going to be not only for basketball players or other athletes or sporting groups, because the bottom line is you're going to need a champion's mindset for anything you want to achieve in life. Would you agree? So, one week it will be just me talking about some of the tools and techniques that I teach my clients. And then the second week, I'll be interviewing people. And today, we are excited to have the amazing Dan Nzinga join us. He is going to tell us more about his background, but here he is. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here and to recollect and talk about my basketball days. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So you didn't actually choose basketball as your first love, did you?
No, I actually played soccer. When I grew up, my older brothers, I had two older brothers, and they were all into soccer, and I was wanted to be like them. So as a kid, they put me as a goalie, and my first thing was like, I'm a goalie, and they were like, wow, he's good. And I was just dive for the balls, and that was the first thing, and then becoming started playing as I got older, and then it wasn't until I was really 14 that I actually decided that okay, I think I can make it to the NBA. Let me try to do this thing. It was when I was 14.
And wasn't it a friend of yours? Was it Vlad or someone like that that was aspiring to doing that?
Yeah, and I hope he's watching. Actually, I invited him to watch. So I had a friend. So the story is when I had in seventh grade, sixth, seventh grade, I had made this friend named Vlad, and he was just upset. He was the best basketball player in our class, and he just loved basketball, and he knew everything about the NBA, and he knew all the stuff going on. And he said his dream was to make the NBA, and I was like, no, it's crazy. You know how many people try to make the NBA? There's like one in a million. There's like so millions and millions of people. Like you're never gonna make it. Those guys are so good and they're so tall. And he said, I think I can make it. I thought he was crazy. And but he used to talk about basketball all the time. And then one day I was at home, and I think my dad changed the channel or something, and there was like an ESPN thing about the playoffs, and I'm pretty sure it was Charles Barkley or somebody. It was like some highlights. This guy was on top of the key, and he shot it, and it hit the back of the rum, and it went up, and it kind of rattled in. Another guy shot and missed it. And I've seen these guys like playing normal, like we play, because we used to play, but I never thought that we could go to NBA. And I said, hey, I can miss that shot. I was like, I can do that too. I can make that jumper. You guys missed a shot right on the top of the key. I can make that. And at that point, I said, I can make the NBA. I mean, I'm not realizing I was a kid, of course, not realizing those guys are actually 6'8", 6'10". My mind, I'm like, these are the normal guys missing shots. I realize they're being guarded by 7-footers, which makes it a little bit harder, right? And so I remember that day that I just grabbed my ball. It was probably like 6 or 7 at night. And I grabbed the ball. We had a hoop outside. So where I lived, there was a hoop. My dad has a school. My dad's a pastor. There's a church, a school, and all these. It's basically, I lived on an institution, basically, or a campus. And then I grabbed the ball and went outside and started practicing. And from there, I made a decision. I said, you know what? I have 8 years to make it. I have 4 years of high school. I have 4 years of college. I said, I can make it. And that's when I just dedicated my whole life to basketball at that point.
And did you find that everyone supported you, or did you get told you'd never make it?
Well, at first, my dad didn't understand, and my mom, like what gave me this love so much, and I was just like so obsessed with it. I went to the school and I went to the library and asked them for like ESPN magazine. They said we have a whole bunch of magazines for years ago that we never used. You can have them. So he gave me magazines from 1980. From 1980 to like the whole 80s of ESPN magazines that the school had been stacking up for all these years. And they let me have them. So I went and I cut out all these stuff when Jordan was in college, when Magic was just new in the NBA, and I just put all these posters up and everything on my wall. And everyone thought I was just going through a phase, but the phase never left. But my dad really said, you're not going to play anymore. Like after like years later when I'm like junior in high school, and I'm really good. And my dad didn't want me to play. He was like, "You need to play in the organ in the church, not basketball." And I and I quit the choir. I used to sing. My brother had a church band, and I just went and played basketball. My dad used to say I sold my soul to the basketball, and he tried to get me quit a lot of times. And I remember just saying, I'm going through the punishment. Every time they punish me because of basketball, it made me love it more. It made me feel like, oh, I'm going through, this is going to be part of my story. Like, so all the persecution just made me like love it more. And one time I was like getting bad grades. And he took all the magazines and took it to the back of the house and burnt them all up.
Oh,
Yeah, he like burned all my. I'm like, why the magazine? Why are you burning my magazines up? I'm like, no, these are my stuff. And he's like, this is what's getting you in trouble. You know, and I said, I'm gonna love it more. They're gonna think I'm not gonna. So every time he left the house, I grabbed my ball and went to play. Like it made me practice harder because I knew that when he was there, I couldn't practice. Good thing he was really busy because he was always going to meetings in church and stuff like that. So even if I didn't feel like playing, if my dad wasn't there, that means I got to go practice. When he's there, I can't play. So I would practice, practice, practice. And sometimes when he'd leave and travel to go to other churches and stuff, I would stay late. The people at the church would take me. I stayed late up all night shooting free throws in the dark. Like I was, people were like, you're crazy, I'm like, all I need is my ball. And I just practice all day, every day, because whenever my dad wasn't around, practice.
and then you got a scholarship.
Yeah, and then it's quite interesting because in my journey, so I was born in the United States, but my parents are Haitians, we kind of had like both lives. I went to a school in Haiti that was an American school, and then I did some schooling in the United States in Pennsylvania and Oklahoma. So I kind of had like this both lives, and I'm realizing how different that was. So there was a kid, this was in Haiti, and his name is Dino. I hope he's listening to. He's a really, really good friend of mine, and he grew to be really tall. So we're like teenagers, and he was like 6'8", 6'7". Everyone told him to play basketball, and he was like didn't really like playing basketball. He had he had bigger problems, and I used to tell him all the time, play basketball, play basketball. You never know. But he was, Haitian. They don't have a passport, all that stuff. He's like, but that's not going to do nothing good for me. You're going to go back to the States, and you have opportunity. I don't. I'm like, you never know. There might be a missionary that comes here and picks you up and sees you how tall you are, sees you're good, and gives you a scholarship. You just never know, man. Keep playing, keep practicing. And he didn't really want to play, but we like harassed him so much. Man, if I was your height, and I harassed him. I was like, look, even if you never make the NBA or never go to the States, at least you'll be good here right now. You'll dominate people now. So he practiced, and he got, we got better. He got good. And just like I said it when I was like during my junior year, and a group of missionaries came to do this thing we call these crusades, where there's like thousands of people come, and it's like one a week where they preach the gospel and everybody comes, and they came to do that. And one of the guys, he's like, he's like, wow, you're so tall, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna go to NBA. He's like, can he play? I'm like, yeah, we can play, and I was like pushing him. I knew that I was getting an opportunity, but I was more like saying, yeah, I'm like, look, your chance is coming, man. This guy, you might go to the States. And then so I would not have made, this was crazy because this little, like life, one little thing can change everything in the story.
Mhm.
So we were sitting there practicing, we were like playing in the yard. And so when they're doing the crusade, they came to get something, like they came to pick something up around at the house, and they were leaving. But while they're in the truck waiting, something happened where the driver had to wait. They were waiting 15 minutes for the driver. And while he's waiting, he's sitting there watching us play. And here I am. He saw me. I'm just shooting jumpers. And he's like, wow, these guys can play. And he's like, the little guy can play too. I'm the little guy. I'm 6'2". Right? And he saw me making all these shots. And so he told his pastor, the top guy, he's like, we should recruit both of these guys. They can really play. If Because he came to say, hey, let me see if you guys can play. He passed the ball, and I did a head fake. I dribbled around him, and I dunked it. I was like, bam, so hard. He's like, wow, these guys can play, right? But him watching in the car like 15 minutes. If the car wasn't delayed, I don't think none of this would have happened, because he was so on fire about us that he went. But it really was starting with him. Dino was the guy, the main attraction, because he's 6'8". He ended up being like 6'10". And he was the main attraction. Like, we got to get this guy to the United States. But I was already American, so it was easy. But by the time they worked on his passport, all this stuff, I got recruited in the point that they were getting a package deal, and it was mainly for him. His passport didn't get. It took him 2 years to get his visa. By then, I was already a sophomore in college by the time he actually came to the States. But if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have got the opportunity, because they were watching him, and then they saw me at the same time. So I always say your opportunity can come anywhere. And it's funny that I was always telling him that you're going to get your opportunity to practice. And that's how I got a scholarship to go to a private school in Oklahoma, this Christian school. This, all the only I was like the only there was like four black kids there. We all played basketball. I was like, you're there, you're like on scholarship. And it was really cool. They gave me this, when I first came in, this big house and this car, basically the place that they give the pastors that come to visit. And they gave me that. I was like treated so well. They gave me a car to drive around. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I made it. And this is still high school. I was a senior in high school. And it was great. So that was my really experience. I was calling my buddies in Haiti and be like, yo, I'm really, telling them all the experience of basketball. And I was buying books. And I was just like the happiest kid in the world, able to be going to this really private school that was like, being around these rich kids and all this stuff. It was really amazing.
So I think there's such a thing as divine intervention. I've certainly had it in my life. And, you're saying, if that hadn't happened, it's like sometimes there's a really bigger plan afoot. You had a dream. You also were way ahead. Probably we weren't really talking about vision boards back then, but you were virtually creating vision boards by putting all the pictures up, in your bedroom. And this is what I want to be like. And you immersed yourself. So there's lots of lessons in here for people that have a vision, whether it's to be in the NBA, whether it's to get a college scholarship, whether it's nothing to do with sport, but they have a vision. These are really important tools.
I want to add something. Is when I was like my 10th grade, and then I was in school in Haiti, and I felt like I was like really good. I was like passing everybody. Like I was the best player in the school. I became the best player around. People were talking about me. And I said, I need to play in the States. Even though I had, in 10th grade, I did like a half a year, but I never really now that I was really good, I wanted to do my senior year in the States. And my brother, who was older than me, graduating from college, he was graduating from college. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll go live with him when he graduates from college and he'll be in the States. And so I thought that's how it was going to happen. I literally used to pray to God and maybe creating the vision in my head, like, okay, I want this to happen. Please, there's nothing more that I want. I remember my mother asking me, what do you want for your birthday? And I was like, nothing, man. I just want skills. Like, if you can make me better, if you can make me faster, if you can make me dribble, or like we're gonna buy you a ball. Like a basketball's not gonna help me. I mean, I got plenty of basketballs. That's not the problem. So, like, I had such this drive that was burdened by my own lack of opportunity, and then I don't know how it was gonna happen, but it happened. I remember just thinking back, like, wow, I had dreamed that, and I prayed and I asked God for this, and then here I am in this situation, and it happened. And for my dad, people might ask, how did your dad allow that if he was against you playing basketball? So that school had a Bible school. So when the guy wanted to recruit me to play, my dad obviously was like, this basketball thing, didn't really agree with it. It was like, whatever. But they had a Bible school. So they were like, so he didn't want to look bad. I guess he didn't want to say no. So he's like, okay, if you go to the Bible school. So my dad, for him, he sent me to the Bible school. So I had to fill out all these applications, forms to go to the Bible school. As soon as I got to the States, I threw all that stuff away. I was like, I go to no Bible school. And so that was part of how my dad accepted, is that we were like, okay, we're going to go to Bible school, me and the other kids. So my dad didn't want to miss out his opportunity because he's like one of the church kids in the neighborhood, that we're going to go to Bible school together, and then we're going to become pastors. That was kind of like almost like the agreement. And when he said, well, aren't you going to the Bible school? And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And so, yeah.
So that was a high school that you were at initially, and then you went to college, to a junior college, and your grades weren't so great.
Yeah. So because I remember taking the SAT, and then they were like, oh, you can't go to Division I, you have to do this other thing. But I had a lot of obstacles, and so after I finished, I got there, and the first thing I did was I want to go play basketball, and I saw the other kids playing. There was other people. Now the talent was a little bit better, and there was a guy who was 6'9". Now there's another 6'9" player, not the same one, and everybody was like, ooh, he was dunking. It was like other talented players, It wasn't no more Haiti. It was like, okay, so I had to really work, but I still was pretty good. And because I had got left back when I was younger, so I was actually like 19. So I was like actually too old. Like by the time the season be over, I was going to be too old to play like the rules. So they said, oh, he can't play. So they basically, I was ineligible to play. So the school was like, man, we brought this guy all the way here and now he can't play. And I was eligible to play basketball. And I was like, oh my God, please help me. This is my dream. So they wrote a special letter. Some of the athletic director wrote a special letter to the commission and say if they can give him permission. He's a kid from Haiti. He's not, some big talent. Like they're not recruiting him from somewhere, and they just say he's a missionary kid, blah, blah, blah. He wants to play. And so finally they came with a ruling like it's a 50-50 chance. Finally they came with a ruling that I could play half the season. So they said that I could play from January on, but I couldn't play the first half of the season. And that was a ruling because of my age. So again, I thought my career was over again, and I was like, please, I want my chance. And then I got to play. So I have only played half the season, and in half the season, I ended up being in the top 10 of all time scoring. That's at the school. Like we have NBA players like Kalena Azubuike came from that school. He was actually a kid. Kalena Azubuike, he played in the NBA for a couple of years. I don't know if anybody knows him, but I remember him because I played with his older brother. And he was a kid. We used to take turns dunking on him on the little basket. Like he was a little kid, he didn't really wasn't that good. And all of a sudden he just blew up and became really good. But I had those Tim Gill. There's a lot of great players that came from that school. And so I just like that basically in half of a year, I became one of the like in the top 10 all-time scorers where these guys had a whole 4 years to play. So I'm kind of proud of that, or at least 2 years that they played varsity. So I'm kind of proud of that. And people didn't know I just came out of nowhere. But unfortunately, my grades weren't matching up for that for me to go to a Division 1 school, and so I got recruited. Well, the funny thing again, I really wasn't. I was like not in the radar of anybody. I was just like this guy who started scoring all these points, and they're like nobody really knew who I was, right? But they were recruiting my tall friend, the other guy again, and one day they came to watch him practice, and then my coach said, "This other guy is actually the best player on the team." He's talking about me. He's actually the best player on the team. He plays defense, he rebounds. Like, you want to take a look at him. And so they were looking at me taking shots. It's almost the same way. He just watched. He's like, oh, okay, he's pretty good. Why don't you come for a tryout? And then I went for a tryout. I played really well in the tryout. Rest is history. And then I got a full scholarship. They got a package deal again. So then it was me and my friend Armand, and we got we recruited together and played together. And yeah, so that's how I got to college. We played 4 years together. We even played overseas together. It was still one of my best friends.
So hold on a minute before we go to overseas. So you decided that you were going to do something different to all of your friends because you go check out overseas in your spring break or something?
Yeah, yeah. So when I was in college, everybody, I don't know, I think I got it maybe from my mom, but being so frugal at times of being like a good business person and never like just wasting her money. Because sometimes we get something called work study, and you get some money as a college player to, I don't know, to spend on things because we don't, it's not a job or whatever. But we did get some kind of money, and I would always save my money. These guys go to the mall and buy stuff with their money, and I would just save my money because I didn't really have all I cared about was basketball. Like I didn't need to spend it on anything, and so I would save my money and then I buy a ticket. I went to France. First, I went to Italy on the ticket. I went to France. I would just go to these places on spring break and to go try out for other teams. This was kind of more like close to my senior year when I realized that I'm like I might not be able to make the NBA right away, but I'm not ready to quit. Like I'm not ready because NBA scouts used to come to the school and sometimes they'd always look at the taller guys, the guys that are 6'8", 6'10", and I'm 6'2", and even my coach didn't even believe. He's like, yeah, you're only 6'2". He's not gonna, Allen Iverson. You're not gonna be able to make it. So I was just grit and grind and belief and saying, I don't want this dream to be over. I do not want to stop playing basketball. I have to go get a regular job. I want to keep playing, and so I just made up my mind. Like I'm gonna find a school. I went on the line. I didn't even know. I went online and Googled basketball, leagues or whatever. And I saw there's a whole bunch of leagues all over the world. And I said, I don't care if people pay me $2 a day. I want to play. I said, I just want to play basketball. I don't want this dream to, because I had so much to improve. I said, I had so much. I want to get better. And I knew that I wasn't good yet. I needed like maybe another 2 or 3 years before I get my prime. And I knew I wasn't in my prime and I had to stop. Most people reach their primes, even in the league, at like 27, 28, 29. It's like you're at the prime of your game. And here you are at 22, you're a senior at 23, and now you have to stop playing. So really, a lot of college players, I mean, most college players never reach the prime of their game. because they never get a chance to get coaching and that. And I just wanted to get to my prime. I didn't care about the money. I just wanted to get there and like because there's something in me that just wouldn't be satisfied. And so I went. I went for a couple times and nothing really happened. I played, but they didn't really give me a contract. And I remember of my the summer of my after my senior year, basically the graduation happened. Even though I was talking to schools, but I hadn't gotten a contract. And I went to France. The first time I went to France, and it's funny because I went to France, but I didn't have any teams in France. My teams were in Italy and in Finland and Sweden. And but one of the guys on the college said, "I have my uncle who lives in France, and you can stay there." And I said, "From France, you can take a train to Italy and do all these other places." So that was kind of the plan. I didn't have a place. So when I went to France, and I 2 days before I went to Italy, I was just at the train station and I saw this tall guy walking around. I said, "Hey, you play basketball?" Because the people I was staying with, I was like, "Hey, where's the gym?" And they're like, "I don't know." They didn't know anything about basketball. I'm like, I saw this guy. I'm like, "You play basketball?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Where? You on the team?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Where? When you guys practice?" Like, "We're practicing tonight." And I told like, I'm like, "Hey, I want to go with where he's going." And like, "All right, okay, cool. Just show up." And I just showed up to their practice and I met the coach. And the coach said, "Hey, you want to practice with us? We're going to scrimmage and you can practice with us." And I just played balls out and I just like really, really hooped. And the guy's like, "Wow, this guy's pretty good. Where's he going?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to Italy." And another friend of mine is like, "Hey, don't play basketball in France, man. They don't pay well. Play in Spain. That's where the contracts are." He's like, "I'm going to Spain. I'm not going to play in France." And he was really good too. And I got his number. I was like, "I'm going to keep in touch with this guy. If all fails," he's like, "If all fails, just give me a call. I'll hook you up because I'm going to be playing in Spain. Don't worry about that." And so I kept his number. I did all these tryouts, like all pretty much fit. Like I didn't really get the contract. I sent him the tapes. Guys like, "Hey, I'm going to talk to my agent." I went to Finland. I played really well. They were like really close. Like, "We're going to give you a contract, but we got to try out some other people." And it was like all this, like the time is like running out. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, it's running out. I don't have anywhere to go." And then the year is like over. But it's interesting because my college coach would use that to recruit people. "Oh, Dan's gonna play overseas. He's going overseas to talk to people." But I hadn't had a contract yet. I didn't know where I was gonna play. And then the summer happens, and it's like I don't have anything able to talk to. So I called the guy that told me, "Don't worry, call him." I said, "Hey, what's up?" His name was Teddy. "What's up, Teddy? Hey, what you doing?" He's like, "Remember you told me not to play in France?" Like, "Shit." Excuse my language. He's like, "Hell, I'm looking for a team." I'm like, "I thought you said don't play in France." Like, "I can't even find a team in France." I'm like, "Oh my goodness." So you better get over here. He's like, "It's getting harder. I can't find no team." I'm like, "Oh my goodness, this guy is good." He was like 6'5", very quick, get dunked. He was really, really, he was more talented than I was. And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, this guy's having trouble." So I got on a plane. I had just watched the movie Behind Enemy Lines. If anyone's seen that movie, it's a war movie where this guy it was a sharpshooter, but there's one guy who believed in him and basically turned him into a star. I said, all I need is one person to believe in me. I'm going to go to Europe. I got a ticket for 3 weeks. I bought my ticket for 3 weeks. I went to that uncle's house and I said, "I just need one person to believe in me. That's what I'm going to do." And so I said, "Can I come with you? Can stay with you for 3 weeks? I'm going to find a team." He's like, "Sure, come over." So I went to France. And then to France, because over, I had to stay. Although I never really practiced in France, I went back to the same team that I played the first time, and I got a contract with them. But during that 2 weeks, I went from team to team practicing, going to playing a pickup ball, talking to coaches. I did everything. And then when I came to that team, they're like, "You want to play with us?" Because when first time I came, I was so good. They thought I was going to go play in Spain and all that other stuff, and they weren't really one of the top teams. And they said, "Oh, you want a contract with us?" And right away, they were like, "Oh, let's sign this contract." They didn't wait for me to go back to the States. They were like, "Oh, we're going to sign this contract right now. Let's get this guy in." And it's interesting how the first team, I went all over the world, and I ended up with that team, and I ended up spending 3 years with them, and I coached for 2 more years. So I stayed 5 years in France. Wonderful experience.
You just had the most extraordinary grit, determination, never say never. It reminds me kind of my dad. My dad was, you probably know this, Dan, was a former professional cycling. He was an Australian cycling champion. So I got brought up by this guy who we didn't know anything called a mindset coach back then when I was little. But if there was, he was my first unofficial one because I used to say, my dad, the words "give up" were not a part of my dad's vocabulary. And it sounds like to me they weren't a part of your vocabulary either. And I think especially young people that are aspiring to doing what you've done can get knocked down so easily and give up. Same thing with me. It took one person. I got told I'd never make it as a professional dancer. Met a guy in Australia that was from England, followed him to London. That didn't work. I ended up finding a school that believed in me finally because I got told at 16, too old, too tall, flat feet, turn in hip, forget it. And I got told it over and over. And I remember thinking, but I know I've got a dancer inside. And it's like exactly what you said. We just need one person that believes in us for a whole new world to open up. So yeah, and you've got a quote I think about mindset and grit and determination. What's that one? Can you remember?
A bunch of quotes. So but one thing that's coming up now for me is that I like to say even now as I coach people is you don't have the life you want because you keep feeding the life you don't want. And I
Yeah.
remember being on that plane flying. And I remember there was a lady sitting next to me. He's like, "Hey, you got here this far." I'm like, "Man, I just want to get there." And I'm like, I just got to feed the life that I want. I'm not going to invest any time in the life I don't want. I remember my mom saying, "Dan, I was like, I'm senior, I'm graduating." I was a criminal justice major because I wanted to go to law school. That was my other thing. I wanted to be a lawyer because I was really good at talking, everybody said, so good at debating. So, anyways, I remember my mom said, "Dan, you need to go to law school because you never know when you're going to get another chance. Life is like that. Do what you have to do now because, life can get in the way. So just go to law school and get your degree and all that stuff." And after talking to her, I'm like, their life is very, very can get in the way, and I know I'm not going to get a chance to play basketball again. So that's what So instead of she was giving me advice, I said I can always go to law school later. I could be 50 and go to law school, but I'm not
Mm,
going to be able to play basketball. This is a small window that I have, and I'm going to go now. And so I didn't. Her advice was for another purpose, but it really made me realize that some things in life you got to do them even if you lose, and some things are not worth doing them even if you win. So this was one of the things where I said, even if I don't make it, it's worth doing it. I feel like, and I have so much respect for the guys in the NBA because I didn't make it to the NBA, but I played at a higher level in France. And I saw so many guys who were so talented that weren't in the NBA, that were
mm.
quicker, faster, that were just, I'm like, wow, how come this guy's not there? So then I was like, man, the NBA is, it's not what you see on TV. That when I saw these guys missing these shots, all of those guys are extraordinary good. So I have immense respect for every single bench player that plays in the NBA or that reached that level because I know how hard I worked to get to where I got to. But I'm happy that for 5 years I got paid. We got treated well. I got an apartment. They gave me everything. The team would come and fill our house with food, and I got a paycheck, and I got to travel, and I got to go all over Africa and do all this stuff. So although I did not play in the NBA, but I got to live my dream and play basketball. And I wouldn't have a better I can't even think of anything that was better. Like if I could go back and play, I would do that. That's how great it was.
Yeah, and it was the same for me when I finally turned professional after I found someone that believed in me. Una Billings, TV School of Dance in Hammersmith, bless her. Una's not with us anymore, but she believed in me, and that gave me the confidence to go home and open my first dance school, and then got married, separated, and chuffed off overseas. And I went, I'm going to rough it. I'm going to experience what this is really about, being a dancer. Well, I landed on my feet and I was getting paid a fortune. Tall dancers were the highest paid in the world. I didn't know that. Neither did the person that told me that I was too tall. so, so I think, when we've got a dream, give it your absolute all, is what I'm hearing from you, because you never know where it's going to take you.
Yeah.
And at least, even if you don't get there, you've learned skills about determination and grit. Because what are the skills that you've learned? Because we're going to wrap up shortly, but what are the skills that you've learned about your journey to become a basketball player and also playing in a team, to now doing what you do in the world in your business?
Oh, a lot. And the quote I think we were referring to is failure is not possible to the committed person or the committed mind. When your
Yes.
mind is made up, as long as you don't quit, you will succeed, and you won't. You just never quit. And so that's kind of the mindset I even bring to the work. And if I know we're a little bit over time, but if I can just share my first year experience when I played overseas wasn't the greatest. I struggled a lot with how the team plays. The basketball in Europe is a lot more fluid, a lot more sexy, not as muscular. That's in college basketball, NCAA. It was like you got to lift weights and bang. It was like a little more physical and hardcore and more athletic. And these guys were, playing in a way that the defense it wasn't really like all up in you. So they're calling fouls on me, and everybody wanted me to do well. And some of the teammates were jealous of me because I was getting all this praise, and they wanted to prove that they were better than me. Like, oh, this guy's coming in and you're paying him, and some of the team, which I didn't even know, but the team actually gave everybody a pay cut. They took some money for everybody to add more to my salary. So the
Oh,
guys so the guys that were already the stars of these teams, there was a team were kind of upset. Like, why am I getting my check, my thing? And these guys better be Michael Jordan, and I wasn't Michael Jordan. I actually had my little knee tendonitis, and it was kind of a rough start. So when I actually got the thing, I was really like being selfish. I was trying to score as many points as I can. I wanted to be Allen Iverson, like the guy, and a lot of the teams weren't really gelling. They weren't really feeling that. So there was kind of like a little division because the management who brought me in are putting pressure on the coach. So for my playing time and for my points, but the teammates aren't really going for it. They don't like it. So so there's like, it was really a weird thing where the coach has to play me. And like one time he didn't play me a lot. And the general manager came down on the court during the halftime, walking to the coach, like, "You need to play him." Yelling at him. He's like, "Hey, I'm the coach. I can do what I want to." And they're sitting there in an argument, and I'm like walking by, like, "Oh my god!" So when they do play me, so he puts me in a position. If I don't play well, and he takes me out of the game, he's like, "Look, that's why I take him out of the game." So it was just like a weird thing. But by the end of the year, it was a shift happened where I stopped playing for myself. I stopped being selfish. I said, "Okay, you know what? Enjoy the game." And the shift happened when, because of this conflict, sometimes I would actually act up. Like I see the other players act up. This is not college anymore. This is professional, where there's grown men, guys in their 35 years old, grown men. There's all kind of people. That's so different from college, where everyone's kind of the same age group. We had a kid that's 20, some guy who's 38, and everybody in between, 29. So people would just go home. They'd come to practice like a job and then go home with their families. And I'm used to college. We're all in the same dorm. We all go hang out together. This
mm,
wasn't like that. These guys didn't talk to each other. They weren't friends. They came and did a job. So it was really like to adapt to that culture. It was like, "Hey, where's my friends? How come we aren't hanging out?" And the guy's like, "We don't hang out." Like, what? So that was like a weird thing in itself. And I remember I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna go to another team. I don't like this thing." I'm just bear me with like this one story, right? And then it was like a game. We had a home game, and I decided I was going to quit. I decided I was going to quit, and I was going to just go to another team, let the season die, or whatever. I'm like, man, I could just go to another team. There's a whole bunch of teams in France. I was like looking online, looking at teams and everything, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to another team. I don't know what team, but I'm gonna go to another team. So I'm in that apartment that the team gave me, and the game starts at 8. We're supposed to be there at 6, and it's 6, and I didn't show. I just stayed. 6:30. I'm just staying at home. I'm not doing anything. I'm like, they're gonna figure out I'm not showing up. Of course I'm like 24, 23 years old, or whatever. It's very immature. And I look at 23-year-olds making these dumb decisions. And I was thinking, I was that young, you know. And so 6:30, my phone's going off. The coach is calling me, people on the team calling me. I'm not answering the phone. I'm not answering. I'm like watching it. 7 o'clock comes around. I'm like, I'm not answering the phone. Right? And people are probably worried what's going on. But that time I was fed up with the team. I didn't like the culture of the team. I didn't like how things were going. And at that moment, I had a friend from the state I played college ball with. He called me. He's 6'8", named Dwayne McDonald. Really could jump really high. One of the great best dunkers I've known. And he calls me, and he had gone to Ireland, got injured, and then got cut. So he's trying to look for a team, and he calls me. He's like, "Hey, what's up, man? I know you're still playing in France. If you got any hookup for me, man, like you with your team or any team, like hook me up." I'm like, "Yo, it's funny you say that. I'm quitting." He's like, "What do you mean you're quitting?" He's like, "Nah, I'm quitting basketball." I'm like, "I'm quitting this team." He's like, "Why?" Cause I don't like the culture of the team. Like, sometimes in the fourth quarter, he's putting me on the bench. At times he shouldn't. It's like the other day I had like 13 points in the first quarter, and I had like 15 in the say. By the end he took me and he didn't play me the third quarter. Like I'm talking about how he played me, and the guy just listening to me. And I'm complaining about this team. He's like, "Bro, I'm looking for a team." He's like, "You have a chance to be." And you know how many guys that are 7 foot that wish they were in that apartment, that could look at the Eiffel Tower, that could have the keys to that apartment and go to practice every day. and you say the coach wants to put you on the bench, let him put you on the bench. You're getting paid to play basketball. I got to worry about getting a job. I don't want to work in the States. Like I got cut because he went to England, he went to Ireland, and he got cut. And he's like trying to find a team, and he's like, "You're so lucky to be where you are." And I was like, "Yeah, that's right. I'm getting paid to play basketball. Okay, fine. You know what?" And I got my stuff. I ran. I got there late, right before the people were warming up. Like, what happened to you? I got to the game. I just ran to the game, and I got there while they were like warming up. And I was like, "Oh my bad! I overslept. My bad." Crazy story. Like, get changed, and I went and changed. And after that, my mindset changed. Even though I thought I was still going to leave that team, I said, "Let me just play and have fun. Quit trying to score all the points. I'll just get
Mhm.
rebounds and pass to everybody." I started setting screens, and people were like, "Oh, he's kind of changed." Like, and the months that followed, it seemed like my scoring went down. Like, "Oh, it's like you're not, as good." But I was doing so much other things, and then the other stuff I could do anyway. So then everybody wasn't focused on me. Like the defense wasn't just trying to focus on me because I was trying to score. If there were two people on me, I try to score. Like it doesn't matter. I'm double team. I'm going to try to score. I was a ball hog, and I'm not really normally like that. After that, I started passing the ball. I'd only shoot when I'm like wide open. I played defense, and all of a sudden my teammates started liking me. Then the same guys that were telling the coach to take me out of the game, they're like, "Oh, put him back in the game." I'm getting rebounds. I'm passing. And I said I didn't need to score, and all of a sudden the scoring came so easy. I used to fight so hard to score 20 points because I felt like I could score 30, but that coach kept on taking me out of the game. So when he puts me in the game, I'm just trying to get my points up. But after that, it became so simple. I just said, okay, just 5 points a quarter and don't try to score. If I had one 3-pointer and two free throws, that's it. And pass the ball. Don't try to score anymore that quarter. Just pass the ball, rebound. And then from that, I was no longer the focal point. By the end of the game, I'd have 20 points or 18 points or something like that without forcing and playing the game. So I learned that sometimes not helping other people, you're helping yourself. Being unselfish, helping yourself instead of trying to be everything for yourself. And that became like my philosophy in life as well. Is when things are really hard and you're forcing, just try to help other people. Try to help other people around you, and then naturally you're going to be wide open because you're trying to get other people open. You're trying to pass to other people, and then hey, I'm wide open, and I can score easier. So that's
Yeah.
the thing I learned. Sorry, I went overboard, but I think that's such a very good
No,
story.
I love your passion, Dan. And you know what I also got from that part of your story as well, which I think a lot of, I don't want to say predominantly men or young boys and men playing, but I have noticed it tends to happen a little more with men than women, is you put your ego on the back burner. Do you know what I mean? It's like when the ego, I always say, who's driving the show? And if it's your ego, if you're playing a team sport, and you're wanting to dominate and you're not being respectful of all of the other players, of course they're not going to like you. But also it was great that you got that lesson and you went, oh, you know what, I don't have to force this. I just have to be a team player, set up my teammates, and inevitably you ended up scoring anyway. So I
And the
think,
team did really well,
yeah,
and
because they came together. Because I
yeah,
I have a thing that I do with all of the teams that I work with, and I get them to get a piece of paper and get them to write down what limiting beliefs and boxes and labels that they're stuck in, but also their limiting beliefs about the members of their team. Because even though they're not speaking it, the rest of the team are going to feel it. Get
mm-hmm.
them to get it out of their head, out of their heart. I learnt this with, my daughter played for a long time, and she was always opening five and she was super talented. But I just, I said to her once, oh, why don't you pass the ball as much to such and such? She goes, oh, because, she's going to lose the ball, mum. And I said, well, if you have that belief, you're breathing life into that, and that's what's going to happen. So I got her to do this. Write down all the limiting beliefs you have about all your teammates, scribble all over it, not true, rip it to shreds, throw it in the garbage where it belongs, wash your hands, see, feel, and hear all those nasty limiting beliefs going down the drain. And it's quite amazing what shows up,
Wow.
because it's just like, when you came home from school as a kid, you knew without your mother or father opening their mouth whether they were angry, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Same thing when we're in a team. If we're not expressing that we don't trust a teammate because we don't think they can, you know,
I
look
can feel
after,
that.
they're going to feel it. You don't even have to say it.
Mhm.
So I think, that's there's so many things we could talk about, and we could go on for hours. So I'll definitely have you back another time. Um, In the meantime, I would love to invite anyone that would like a free copy of my book to go to thechampionsmindset.coach, and they can download a free copy. It's called Mental Performance Mastery for Basketball Success. But you know what? It's not just basketball. It's as we've been talking about, all of the things that you learned in life, Dan, in your journey to becoming that basketball professional player, you're now applying to your life. So I think the champion's mindset is it's not just about sport. It's just about life in general. So I want to thank you so much for your time. And how can people get a hold of you if they'd like to find out more about what you do these days?
So they can get a hold of me. My website is dannzinga.com. I help coaches, life coaches mainly, to build communities. And I totally believe in personal growth. I'm basically all everything that Kathryn talking about, like that I learned in basketball. All of them can be applied in real life. So I take the principles that I learned from basketball and now I put it into life coaching, the personal growth, and the things that have nothing to do with basketball, but it's all about the human experience of progressing and working hard. And so I definitely encourage anybody, if anyone's young listening and not sure they should join the basketball team or whatever team, just get your kids in sports, because I learned so much from sport with playing together with other people, learning how to deal with other emotions and how to be humble when my coach is mad at me and all this. You learn so much as a kid from sports if you have a good structure, that I would recommend anybody, teaching your kids sports young, so that when they can grow up, they can have all these tools to function in life.
Especially team sport as well, because I've just found I was in, all sorts of different teams. We played softball, netball, track and field, relay, and things like that as a young primary school kid. And that really, like, it doesn't, if you can be playing sport in a team and you can think, oh yeah, I'm not very good at sport, I don't know why I'm playing this. But we're on teams all of our lives. We're on family teams, we're on hobby teams, we're on work teams. And if we can learn those skills through sport, then it translates to the rest of our lives. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, definitely. The same principles, the same grit, and the same lessons that you can really learn and learn how you are and how you deal with pressure and how you can improve and help other people.
Yeah, yeah. So for those of you that have joined us today, thank you so much. And we'd love to know. I'd love to know in particular what challenges you have regarding mindset. Feel free to comment below when this live is posted on all sorts of places, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. Um, and next week I will be talking about whatever you feel you need as much support in. So please let me know. You can also send me an email to Kathryn at thechampionsmindset.coach, or comment on our social media, and I will see you all next week. And Dan, I'd love to have you back some other time.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for watching The Champion's Mindset with Kathryn ORFORD. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week.